Teddy covers, and we have a huge card today. So much to talk about. Let's bring him in right now. Please welcome to the show from Las Vegas, Nevada. Teddy covers in the house. How are you doing on this Thursday morning?
I'm doing all right, Jimmy, but I certainly get the same sense of what Ian was just talking about with, oh my God, there's so much going on, there's so much going on, there's so much going on. You know, what do we got, 11 days till NBA, 12 days till NBA, 27 days till college hoops. Hockey's already started. We got college football tonight. We got Game 5 in baseball. We got NFL going. Yeah, this is one of those times a year where, as a bettor, you got a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of oomph in your step because you know how much is going on.
So much going on. Let's get into the big one-off games in MLB and NFL and a look ahead at what you think about the Nationals Cardinals. Why don't we start there? What did you see from this national squad, and who do you think takes the NLCS and represents the National League in the World Series?
Well, I don't know. I'm not betting it. Look, let's be honest, all right? My baseball was not good in the first round. My baseball was not good in September. I'm not in great form in MLB right now. And when I'm not in great form in MLB right now, and there's so much going on, you know, I might have half a dozen plays from here on out in baseball. So it's not something that where my energy and focus is. And I'm a one-man, I mean, everyone, all you guys are one-man outfits mostly. You know, we share information here, but it's not like we have a whole team of guys that are working with us that I can say, all right, hey, you work on the baseball for me. Hey, you work on the college hoops. No, it's me. So honestly, well, I'm looking at the line right now for the first time for the series price. And we're talking Washington as a short favorite. I mean, it feels like a pick'em series, and I got both these teams wrong in the last round. So it's not something that from first glance I'm ready to look at. I'm ready to bet on.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think the Nats are live. I think the Cardinals are live too. I mean, if you bet against the Cardinals in any elimination game, you automatically lose. This century. So I guess maybe I like St. Louis in that regard. But I mean, am I going to go against a Strasburg or a Scherzer? I mean, the Nationals pitching is better than the Cardinals pitching, and that matters. I'd say Washington's a better team. That doesn't mean anything, though. St. Louis is the home field edge, and St. Louis, they just win every elimination game. What do you do with that franchise? I guess I lean Washington.
Yeah, it's a tough series, and I need some more time on it. And you talk about, being a one-man band. I'm very lucky to have all you guys help, which allows me to hit more sports. Talking about this big game today, Cole Glasnow, are you making any move on Rays Astros? And we already saw what happens when teams see a pitcher a second time, and the Rays have been trying to keep those potent Astros bats from getting too comfortable with any one pitcher. 8 pitchers have pitched at least 3 innings through the first 4 games of this series. Are you making a move in Rays Astros?
I'm not. I'm not even close. I'm not close on side. I'm not close on total. I don't have a lean. It's not. I don't think Tampa's going to win the game. So I'm not going to play Tampa, and I'm not going to lay $3 with Houston in a game with total at 7. I don't know where the runs come from here. At the same time, I mean, if I had to play it, I would play Astros run line. That's the way I would play it. I think, but I'm not even close to making that wager. So I don't have to play it. That's one of the we talk about edges that bettors legitimately have. It's a legitimate edge. The book has to put out a line for every single game and every single sport, and we get to pick and choose our spots. That's meaningful. That's a legitimate edge. We don't have to bet every game. I'm not betting this one.
I agree. I don't want Astros at this price, and I don't want to bet against the Astros. I completely agree. Let's get to Thursday Night Football. Giants, Patriots. We got wind. We have rain. We have Brady, and we have Daniel Jones. I'm interested in the Giants team total under. It's still at 12.5 in my book. Hasn't changed even though this total keeps dropping. It got to a low 40.5, now up to 41. Are you making the move on Giants Patriots?
So the sharp money, make no mistake about it, there's sharp money on the over right now. All right, the leading indicator books are all saying, and I can't tell you exactly why. I think it may well be a pace issue, but the sharp money is clear that once it got bet down, it's come back up. And the books that cater to the wise guys are moving it up fairly quickly. So we know that this isn't a public move on the over. This is a sharp move on the over. Since that total got bet down initially, the money has come back the other way. I can't bet over here. The only way I can look at this game is the under. The only thing that makes sense to me in this ball game. You know, I mean, you just heard Bono talking about it. The points are exactly the same. You don't want a team which has basically their top 4 skill position players, talent hurt for tonight with the Giants and a rookie quarterback against the Belichick defense on a short week. I don't want the Giants there. No. That being said, I don't want the Patriots either. I agree with everything with Bono. I think this is an overvalued team. And I mean, they're often overvalued. It's not the first time. They still continue to cover point spreads. But I don't want Brady on a short week, flat out. I mean, it's not an offense that I expect to be clicking on all cylinders tonight. So my initial lean is under. But when I see all this sharp money coming on over, I'm going to respect that. I'm going to leave this game alone.
Yep. Yep, absolutely right. I'm going to do the exact same thing. Speaking of moving money and sharp moving on totals, thank you, Teddy. Yesterday, during the late show, the total in the football App State game last night, Louisiana Lafayette, got back up to 70. And all I could think about was what you did when you knew 70.5 were available, taking the under. I jumped on the under, and we're moving in the right direction. Rafa, could you pop up my NCAA football record? We are moving in the right direction. If you take out like one terrible week and what's been happening late at night out west, I'd have a great record. So I know what the mistakes that I'm making are, and I'm not going to allow them to keep happening. Let's get into what's going on tonight. We did get Babano's looks, and we've heard from Anthony Mastronardi and others about whether or not to take Syracuse. Anthony's on Syracuse. Babano's Syracuse. What do you think about this spot? Syracuse, NC State, and with that, Guru Sportsbet says, ask Teddy about the NC State over. So that total's gone from 58 to 56. So sides, totals, Syracuse, NC State. Teddy Covers, take it away.
So I made 3 bets before we came on air today. I decided to do it before I got on the show instead of waiting until after. Yesterday, one of those 3 bets was Central Michigan. One of those 3 bets was the over in Oregon for tomorrow night. And the third of the 3 bets was the Syracuse Orange. I'm with the previous calls. I'm with Babano. Who did you say came on first and also like Syracuse?
He didn't come on. It's our guy.
I like Syracuse.
Anthony.
I think Syracuse is capable of winning the game straight up. So I put them in my pocket. I found a +5. There weren't many of them, but I found one. But it's a good bet at 4.5. I think I look at these two teams. This is a pick'em game. And if I'm catching 4.5 points in a pick'em game, I think Syracuse is live to win. I haven't sprinkled on the money line yet. I probably will put a couple of bucks on the Syracuse money line last night. And it has everything to do with one team as a quarterback, the other team doesn't. I've seen Syracuse before the bye, after that bad start, they woke up, and I haven't seen NC State wake up yet. So 4.5 to me was a little bit too much. I took the points.
I like it. And Guru Sportsbet's wondering about this total that opened up at 58, now at 56.
In general, I'm not interested in betting Syracuse games under the total. But my take for Syracuse here has a lot to do with NC State's offense, which has been spotty at best, and the quarterback play hasn't been good. And that concerns me here. And I don't love DeVito. This isn't, he's no Eric Dungy. So I can understand why the money has come on the under. None of it's my money. I'm not playing the total.
I hear that. And we have questions coming in. One from our Gerald Jones. I will ask that, Gerald Jones. Hope you had a great 50th birthday yesterday. Okay, let's keep rolling here. We have another game, and I'm very close to pulling the trigger on Syracuse, and it may happen any second. Now, let's keep rolling. Louisiana, Monroe, Texas State. Babano was interested in this over. Oh, no. Was it you? Yeah, Louisiana, Monroe, Texas State over. And we've heard a lot of people liking Texas State, our Maxwell Smart being one of them. There were 3.5s on the board. Those 3.5s are gone. It's now 3. ULM, Texas State. Teddy, what do you think here?
So, I could see ULM doing what they want to in this ball game, and they're 3. It's not like you're laying a huge price with Monroe. This offense is good. We've seen it all year. They can put points up, and against defenses like Texas State, I would think that they should be able to put points up in bunches. All that being said, have I pulled the trigger? No. Am I about to pull the trigger? No. Was it a better spot for the over last week against Memphis? Yes. Babano cashed that ticket. Well done. So it's not a bet that I'm making by any stretch of the imagination, but La Monroe is a one-way team for me. If I'm playing their total, I'm playing it all. And in general, if I'm playing their game, the number one look I have for that squad. That offense is good. That defense is not. And they're playing with pace. And when you have a team like that, the way I tend to look is over the total. But I don't have a strong feel for this one, so I'm not likely to get involved. I'm not involved now, and I don't see myself getting involved before kickoff.
We have cappers on both sides. Jin liking Louisiana Monroe -3. Ben Sports 24/7 says Texas State +3 is the money play. D-Tate Doug says Texas State is awful. Manny Sanchez on Texas State. That is a stay off. But I'm jumping in on Syracuse with the fellas. I'm getting +4.5 and -105. That's available at both Heritage and 5 Dimes. +4.5, -105. I'm in. Locked in. All right, Teddy covers. This is an exciting day to have you on because you start putting everything together from your week of study. We've already heard that you locked in 3 bets just before the show started. What else have you done on this card before I start bringing in questions from the chat? Do we have additions? And I'll pull up your moves from earlier in the week.
Yeah, I mean, so you have you should have moves that I made early in the week. I got them right here if you want. Give me a second. I got them on one of these sheets that I.
Yeah, I've got them here too. Sorry, let me get them here.
Give me 1 second. They're in here somewhere. But again, and I made 3 additional bets today, and I got a whole bunch of other info that I'm all interested in. So was this yeah? So So I bet Nevada -2.5 against Hawaii. Not Hawaii. I wrote that the other day. I said, and it's not Hawaii against San Jose State.
Yeah.
That messed me up the other day when I was looking at these. Yeah. I don't know why I wrote Hawaii. I would not. That Hawaii game is fascinating to me, but it's not one that I'm betting on. But I laid with Nevada. I took with Fresno against Air Force. I laid with Iowa State at West Virginia. I laid with Washington at Arizona. Yeah, yesterday we talked about Iowa plus and Houston plus. And then today I've made the additional adds. Let me write them down now because I just put them on. I bet Syracuse plus. I bet Colorado, Oregon over. And I bet Central Michigan +10. So that's 9 plays that I've made so far this week.
Yeah, Nevada, Fresno, Iowa State, Washington was from Monday. From yesterday was Iowa plus, and I just writing it on one page. What was the other?
Houston,
yeah. Houston, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then the 3 plays from today. Beautiful. Okay. Well, we have questions coming in, and Matt Randall saying EMU number is completely flipped since Monday. Raven and Desert still liking Eastern Michigan. Manny Sanchez says Teddy is amazing. Well, let's get into other notes. Did you have some notes that you wanted to talk to us about, or should I start firing questions at you?
Let's talk about this Eastern Michigan for a minute, because that's one that I missed the best of the number and haven't played. That being said, I don't freak out as much between a +1 and a -1. You know what I mean? If that's a number that if I miss, I'm willing to get to the window with Eastern -1. Once it gets above that, I wouldn't. But I'm not. It's not going to cost me a bet if they win by 1. I push, so I'm not going to lose any units given that situation. Hence, why I'm not as paranoid with in that particular point spread range. I'm not getting the best of it, but it's absolutely an Eastern spot. I don't believe, Ball State got hot in the second half last week, outscored Northern Illinois 24-3. It was a little bit fluky coming off a road win. I'm not asking them to do it twice in a row. Eastern got blown out by their, rivals in Central. They came out of the bye a little bit fat and happy, and it showed. They played a really miserable first half. It's an Eastern spot. I think they're the better team, and I think the price is right. We wouldn't talk anyone out of the Eastern Michigan Eagles this week.
Eastern Michigan and Raven in the Desert also on it. Great capper. Okay, questions are coming in, but this one is from me after reading an Eddie Euler comment. Eddie Euler saying Nebraska game, because we talked about the Nebraska-Minnesota over, and I'm very close to pulling the trigger. And now Eddie Euler says light rain showers could mix with snow in the evening. Does that concern you about the over?
I mean, the thing that concerns me most is whether what Martinez is like. And I didn't get any good info yesterday on that. So that's something, again, that we'll look and see what we can find out today. But, I mean, if he's not right, we're not playing this game over. But if he's good to go, then a weather forecast that doesn't include heavy winds is not going to scare me off. I don't care if it's a little bit chillier. And the market's, modestly cold weather doesn't kill overs, even in October. This is a weekend where you want to pay attention to your weather forecast. There's definitely weather moving across the country, and that's something to note moving forward in football. Just a little click, double check, because you're going to see, when we have wet weather in October, you know that it's coming. And it's coming all across the Midwest over the next few days.
We have questions pouring in. 2 from Rick Rodriguez and Farsha Asami on NFL. We will close with that. Manny Sanchez says Nebraska +8 is the play. Do you agree with that?
I'm one way on this Minnesota team. I will be betting on the Gophers or I'm leaving the game alone. I believe in Minnesota. Their record is not a fraud. And again, you see it happen all the time. The coach gets hired in the first year. There's all this hype. PJ Fleck, row the boat. Yeah, off that great season at Western Michigan. And then Minnesota's mediocre. And then Minnesota's mediocre last year again. And everyone kind of forgets about the coach. Say, oh, well, that guy, he didn't come in and win immediately. Therefore, well, Fleck's got his stuff in place for the Gophers. That wasn't a program. Not that Kill was awful there, but when a new coach comes in, sometimes it's going to take a couple years to get the recruits. And Minnesota's young, they've got some young talent. That's an emerging program in the Big Ten West. And the way you make money in college football, you find the emerging programs and you ride them. Just asking one that was betting UAB last year or whatever it is. The team that was here, but now they're here. And that's Minnesota this year. That program's moving up. Gophers, one way for me. And the fact that Fleck's been there a couple years and there's no hype, and you asked 40 people who's Minnesota's head coach, and 38 of them probably can't tell you anymore. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. I'm a Gopher believer. And nothing I've seen from Nebraska this year makes me excited. That's been a blowout series. When one team's been able to throttle the other repeatedly in recent meetings. I'm not stepping in front of Minnesota.
Not stepping up in front of Minnesota. Okay, we got questions coming in. Start firing them at you. First from Brody says, what does Teddy think about Washington State, Arizona State? My early lean was Washington State, but have noticed the line has continued to move in Arizona State's favor. Help me out, Teddy, he says.
I'm not going to play the game. I'm not. In theory, you're supposed to want the team that's good coming off 2 bad losses and a particularly bad loss and then a bye week, and that's Washington State this week. We're supposed to like them. Arizona State's pretty good, and they've only gotten better. They've been a dangerous. It's just not. I think that Arizona State's defense has the potential to contain Wazoo's offense, and that's going to keep me on the sideline. But it's one of these games that, if Washington State starts putting up points in bunches, Arizona State's not going to trade points with them. I don't know. It's a fascinating game to consider, and it's not one that I'm betting on, and that's the best I can give you on it. I could see a case for either one of these teams, not just to win, but to blow them out, and that is going to keep me on the sidelines.
Mr. Rizzo says, ask about Texas Tech rotation number 165, 166. Texas Tech, Baylor. Baylor opening up a -10.5. Now 11s across the board and 11.5 a bookmaker. This total is around 58. Pinnacle's moved it up to 58.5. Texas Tech at the 22nd ranked Baylor Bears.
So I watched Texas Tech last week, and that was a different Texas Tech team than the one that I'd seen a couple of weeks earlier. I mean, the performance they put together, start to finish, on both sides of the ball, looked nothing like the Texas Tech team. And again, a lot of it's the eye test. And the Texas Tech team that I'd seen earlier did not pass any eye test. And the Texas Tech team I saw last week passed every eye test against Oklahoma State. Maybe it was a tough spot for Okie State, coming off another big win. And I don't think the Cowboys are that great. But Texas Tech played, many touchdowns better than I thought they were capable of playing last week. Several touchdowns better. And with a team like that, I have 2 choices, and there really are a couple of options when you have a team like that came through with an outlier performance. You're like, where did this come from? So, all right, I'm going to ride this team. They're an undervalued commodity right now. The markets aren't pricing them correctly. What we saw last week was real. Or you say, well, they were at home. They had the right opponent at the right time. The last week's performance was the outlier, and we can expect Texas Tech to be physically manhandled by Baylor at the line of scrimmage in this one. I don't know the right answer to that question. I don't know if what we saw last week has the potential to continue forward or whether it was just an aberration game, and that's going to keep me on the sidelines here. A second data point with Texas Tech looking good will give us a potential bet on team moving forward. If last week's game was just a blip, we'll know it this week. And then Texas Tech will not be a potential bet on team moving forward, for what it's worth.
I love it. Okay, this is a very fun spot for me. I've more. You can feel free to keep rolling in your questions. I will copy and paste them and ask Teddy. But now we move to our guys, DJ Big Boss, Big Ragu, the boss, and the sauce. Our Pick 6 show is coming out today, and we've done a different format. We're trying a new format. It's like a 22-minute episode, and we're excited about it. It's just a tight episode. We're going to try that instead of the live show, so that's coming out today, and we're very excited about it coming out. Let's go over the looks from first, our DJ Big Boss. First off, he was on Appalachian State. Great job, Big Boss. 1-0 already in the Pick 6 contest. His 2-unit play, though, is Colorado State. Colorado State. Let me grab it here. I know it's one of the late games. Man, I should have grabbed it already. Colorado State, come on, where are you? Colorado State is at -4. Colorado State. Have you looked into this Colorado State game? Because I know we talked about it earlier in the week, even though I can't find it right now on the board.
Yeah, it's. I know I don't want the Lobos. Okay, that's not. It's not even a question. New Mexico is not a backable team for me. They are a true bottom feeder. That being said, when you start talking about laying points on the road with a team like Colorado State, that, all right, they've been competitive in some games. They're not winning. And I understand they're stepping down in class here, but they're also playing a funky offense, and that's not a good defense. The slightest of leans to the over, nothing on the side. I know I don't want the dog, but this is not a favorite that I trust.
Next up on Big Boss's Pick 6 is Wyoming, San Diego State. He's trying to go under this very low number of 38. Is that possible here, Teddy?
Actually, the long-term trend shows that if you're playing the under 40s in college football, you've done fairly well over the long term. I like the San Diego State side more than the total here. I don't know how Wyoming scores. I'm worried about Agnew. Agnew showed some stuff last week that I hadn't seen from him. He was chucking it downfield a little bit against Colorado State, and I don't know if he's going to have many opportunities to do that against Wyoming. And certainly when you talk about a head coach who will play it very conservatively all the time, that's Rocky Long. Not an under I'm going to talk you out of. Not an under I'm going to bet myself, with concerns about the Aztecs making a couple of big plays in the passing game.
Next up on Big Boss's Pick 6 is Toledo versus Bowling Green under 64.5. What do you think of that look?
Toledo's not a team I'm excited about betting under. Bowling Green's not a team I'm excited about betting in any way, shape, or form. I can. It's not a game I have a strong take on at all. BG doesn't score, but they don't stop anyone. I don't have a strong take. Good luck. I won't talk you out of it. I won't talk you into it.
Big Boss's next 2 looks on the Pick 6 contest are in NFL. He's on Green Bay -4. He got the number at the right time. I believe I have to check it. And he's with me on this Niners Rams under 50.5, which gave me a lot of confidence. Let's keep rolling. These are Big Ragu. We got the sauce from the boss and the sauce. 2-unit play backing Texas and Herman at +11.5.
I have no complaints with that wager. Texas is a bet that I expect to have in my pocket before kickoff on Sunday. And it's nothing to do with Tom Herman. Well, it's something to do with Tom Herman. It also has something to do with the fact they stood toe-to-toe with LSU. Whereas Oklahoma, well, you look at their schedule. They haven't stood toe-to-toe with anyone because they haven't played anyone yet.
All right, next up, we'll skip a spot just because Brandon Lugo, my guy Brandon Lugo, has come in saying, I like Wake Forest. So does the Big Ragu like Wake Forest at -6.5. And Big Ragu's been eating off Wake Forest all year long, and he doesn't expect to stop this week. What do you think of Wake Forest at 6.5?
So I was tempted by the over in this game, a little bit more than the side. Because we know the Demon Deacons right now, their MO is pretty simple. They got a talented receiving core, and they like to chuck it around, and they can put up points in bunches against mediocre defenses. And Louisville, in a best case scenario, has a mediocre defense. The Cardinal can score though. Against a defense like this, I think they can. So I lean over sidewise. I don't have a strong take. Good luck with the Demon Deacons minus the points.
Got my guys Nate Dogg 420 and Corey Simmons joining us. Thank you guys. Love having you in the chat. Next up for Big Ragu is on Friday evening, 6 p.m., rotation number 109, 110, 20th ranked Virginia at Miami. He is with this market move. Miami opening up at -1.5, now at 2 or 2.5. He is backing the Hurricanes, and he got them at 2.5. What do you think of this move?
So I know there's going to be a fair bit of Virginia support this week. You can count on it. All right. Again, Miami lost last week at home as 2 touchdown favorites against a team that had lost 45-3 on national TV the previous week. And Virginia's coming in off a bye, rested and ready, with a coach that everyone admires in Mendenhall and a defense that's pretty good. You can understand the case for Virginia. Not my money. I watched these two teams play last year, and there was a class difference in the athletes. Virginia's offense had no chance against Miami's defense. I'm not convinced that has changed in a single season, and I would, from reports and from the betting markets, it's pretty clear that Miami's focus level is there this week. Even with Virginia off the bye, I could only play Miami. That being said, I have not pulled the trigger. I'm not going to pull the trigger. So a lean Canes, but it's only a lean.
Lean Canes. The next up is a big game. Michigan State, Wisconsin, 177, 178. Wisconsin opening up -10. They're now 10.5, and 11s are on the board. Our Big Ragu is backing Wisconsin -10.5. What do you think?
So it's not a game I'm going to play. I would put myself more in the Babano camp than in the Big Ragu camp on this one. I believe in the Spartans still, even after the debacle last week. And the look on D'Antonio's face at the end of that game, that's a bet-on look the next week. I've seen that look before. You know, he was not pleased with the way his defense showed. And I'm not getting involved with Wisconsin right now, betting on them. They're in some ways a difficult team to step in front of. This has all been at home. They've had this incredible stretch at home where they're just destroying teams and stuffing them defensively and just running Taylor again and again. Sparty's defense is capable in this matchup in a way they weren't capable against Ohio State last week. And I continue to say, well, at some point Michigan State's going to move the football on offense. They haven't yet. That offense has been a major disappointment to me this year. But I think the number's a little bit high. I would only take Sparty plus. I'm not going to play it. But I would, if I had to play it, I'd play Michigan State plus before I took Wisconsin minus. I'm not a Wisconsin believer.
Not a Wisconsin believer. Also, very quickly, Remo says Bernier confirmed for the Red Wings and is concerned. I thought, Laval, Quebec's own Jonathan Bernier with his French wife and his family being at the game. This is what he dreams about. Bell Center. I have no problem with it. Maybe Howard has better numbers, but you get the kid to play out. I mean, and he's not a kid, but you get the guy to play out his dreams in the Bell Center in front of friends and family. Why wouldn't he step up? I got no problem with Laval, Quebec zone, Jonathan Bernier in between the pipes for the Red Wings at a big plus price against the Habs on the second half of a back-to-back after a 5-4 overtime loss. Give it to me. All right, next up, we have a look that was also backed by our very own Mississippi Kid. It is Arizona at home to cover against the Huskies. Interesting spot. +6, says Ragu. What do you think here?
Nope. I like the other side of that one. I like the other side of that one a fair bit. And I haven't bet it because the money's coming the other way. So one of the things that happens when you live in Vegas, and it's a big advantage living in Vegas, is you walk around town all week and you get buzzed. And of course, people know me. I hear from a lot of casual recreational bettors, as well as the pros that I talk to throughout the course of the week. Everybody's got the same story this week. Man, the Huskies. Oh, what happened to Washington? Oh, Chris Peterson, that guy used to be able to coach. What? Oh, he's a clown now. Oh, Washington. This is a market crash. There ain't no Washington money this week. And Washington's good, okay? I understand they've lost a couple of games that they should have won. I understand that the last week's loss to Stanford was a weird loss, and now they're laying points on the road again. That defense, nobody's moving the ball against that defense. Not all year anyone has moved the ball up and down the field against that defense. Arizona's not going to do it. Washington's defense will be the best unit on the field in this game. This is not a Khalil Tate goes nuts game. Jacob Eason, again, earlier in the season, they were talking about him being a potential number 1 overall pick. He was the top recruit out of high school. The Huskies can play offense. We just haven't seen it. They had a bad game last week. Arizona's defense isn't all that. I wouldn't be surprised Washington smacks them, but I think they can win this game by a touchdown or more. It'd be Washington or pass for me.
Washington or pass. Man, that's going to be a fun game. And it did catch my attention that Ragu is on it, and then Mississippi Kid backed it. Okay, question. So thank you for that's one of my funnest things to do is when I have one of these guys whom I love dearly, a great capper, and then I get to pitch all their plays to you. It's extremely enjoyable for me. Okay, let's keep rolling. Remo says makes sense, but Bernier 1-11, 895 save percentage, 3.32 goals against average versus Habs all time. Okay, maybe it sounded better than the stats produce. Oh man, I did not know his numbers were so bad. Oh, but wait, that's first Habs all time. Ramos, give me in Montreal if you can. Give me in Montreal. I'd like to see what he does at home. But that I don't like seeing that. Okay,
and let me jump in, Jimmy,
yeah.
super quick on that because you're making such a key point there. The aggregate stats will kill you. They will mislead you. They will point you in the wrong direction. Sometimes you want to micro those stats. Okay, I don't care what his overall. What's he doing at home? That matters. That's key. And so many times the betting markets move on these aggregate stats when those aggregate stats are from stuff that happened weeks and months and years ago even. Current form is what matters most.
Yeah,
to this better.
I agree because we get inundated with so much information, and the worst is baseball. And also, I also find in hockey, because we're talking about hockey right now. Look, I don't care what a goalie has done against a team that's not in his division, that has nothing to do with them, and that sample size is too small. I don't care. I don't care. And then we got to figure out what stats mean the most to us and focus on those. And baseball is so difficult. Oh, sorry. Do you want to touch on that, Teddy?
Oh, I'm like cheering you on. I'm like, yes, sure, I agree. That's all I'm saying, Jimmy. I'm like, I'm just giving you thumbs up. Yes, agree wholeheartedly.
I love it, Teddy. Some people asking about WNBA. We will talk about that game for a couple minutes. We'll hit that harder on the Late Show. But let's ask a couple questions to Teddy from the chat as they kept coming in. And T-Fed15. Any thoughts on Florida versus LSU? And I thought, yes, and that is Big Ragu's last spot on his card. Thank you. That's a perfect question, T-Fed. Big Ragu is on LSU minus the 13. What do you think, Florida LSU?
I'm with Ragu on this one. All right, just let me get that Gator schedule called up here real quick. Florida has played so far. Miami, bad offense. UT Martin, doesn't matter. Kentucky, bad offense. Tennessee, bad offense. Towson, doesn't matter. Auburn, not a great offense. LSU, great offense. Great offense. I don't see Trask trading points here. I worry. I understand that Florida's defense, to be catching this many points, it's a lot of points for Florida's defense. But LSU, and I talked about this last week when I was talking about how I liked Auburn. I'm like, I think there is a class, and I was wrong, obviously, but I'm like, the top teams in the SEC are better than Florida. Auburn wasn't the top team in the SEC. LSU, Georgia, Alabama, those are three teams I don't want Florida against. This is one of those games. I think, and of course, at night, in Death Valley, it's going to be a heck of an environment. And if LSU has the chance, they're going to pile on every touchdown they can. I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers win this one by margin. LSU or pass for me. Agree with the take.
What do you think as a double up spot? First half, full game. What do you think doubling up here on LSU?
I wouldn't talk you out of it. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't talk you out of it. It makes sense, but why? That's what I don't understand. Is like why would you? Why do you want to split your wager there?
You're more of a double up spot. I just not splitting it, but actually doubling up here. Just everybody coming in saying LSU, and the breakdown makes sense. If Florida's not capable to handle LSU's offense, why not take them first half as well when they're going to come after him just to protect you in case there's a backdoor cover late when LSU is brought in some backups.
I wouldn't talk you out of it at all, Jimmy. It's not a bet that I made.
Then next up on this, and we're going to close with this question from our guy Manny Sanchez in the house watching right now, who caps with his 12-year-old daughter. I mean, I just love families capping together. We have rotation number 169, 170, Brigham Young, BYU up against South Florida. BYU opening up at -4, now 5s and 5.5s. This total opened up at 51, now 50 and 50.5. So we're going to close with this. BYU, South Florida. Teddy, you got an angle?
So this was actually bet up as high as 7. And it opened 4, got bet up to 7, and now the money's come back the other way on South Florida. I understand that move. I don't, from a spot standpoint, this is not a spot where I'm comfortable laying any price with BYU as they travel across the country. So it's USF or pass, and there are teams I'm more excited about putting my money on than USF. So it's one I'll leave alone. But from a theoretical standpoint, a priori, it's South Florida or nothing. I don't want BYU in this travel spot.
All right, we've got to put a bow on this show. And I did, right when I was reading the Insider's Room questions to you, Teddy, I realized, oh, yeah, we had NFL questions that people wanted to know. Quickly, we'll go from the Insider's Room. Question for Teddy. Do you think that the Patriots defense is overrated? I don't think they played a good offense yet. You like the over in the Pats games. Do you like the over in Pats games moving forward?
Yes, I think the Patriots defense is at least somewhat overrated because as of right now, based on DVOA, your advanced metric stats on defense, they have the best defense in NFL history. Okay, literally. So the betting markets giving a whole lot of credit to the Patriots defense. Obviously, they faced a opponent, one opponent after the next that can't move the football or couldn't move the football. So I do think that New England's defense is a little bit overrated. That being said, the Patriots have been overrated many times in recent years, and they are still the best point spread team of the decade. So they work magic. Belichick works magic, and they're just one of those teams that when I find a case to bet against New England, most of the time I leave it alone. And this is a year where I think there's a ton of value perhaps to bet against New England or to bet some overs later on. My track record betting against the Patriots is not a good one. And I think we should be betting against them. I think they are overvalued. But New England does some funny things. That's why I'm not stepping in front of them tonight, and we'll see what happens for next week.
There's questions I needed to ask you. Teddy and I will ask you tomorrow, just copying and pasting Anders Larson's action. But one question I will ask you about, because I'm extremely interested, and we'll put an end to the show with this question. Our guy Farsha Asami puts so much energy, such a great capper, puts so much energy into our chat, says, can you ask Teddy about the Saints game? And it's just one I don't want to ever stop talking about. It's New Orleans opening up at -2, now at -1. I have a friend from home who wants to make a big bet on New Orleans. And I was like, man, what do you think about this market movement? And he, had no idea what I was talking about. So there's a perfect example of the public thinking that New Orleans is going to smash here. And yet we've seen them go from 2-point favorites to 1-point dogs. Saints, Jags. Can we talk just briefly about it before we put a bow on this show?
Yeah, and again, I mean, at some books, the Jags open -2.5. Other books, they open -1.5. Other books, they open pick 'em. So it really comes down to when the open, what book and what opener we're talking about. This is a sharp square divide game. The public will be on New Orleans. The wise guys are clearly on Jacksonville. I can understand why. It is a Jags spot for what it's worth. With New Orleans now off there, off a pretty big divisional win, off 3 previous huge games in a row, going on the road, facing a team off a loss in which their defense didn't play well. This is a Minshew Mania game. Jacksonville or pass for me.
Yeah, and I've stayed off of it. I've locked in my 6 bets in the pick 6, and I have went ahead and bet them, and I cut the Saints. Teddy Covers, man, I love this show so much. There's so much to talk about, man. I feel like we could sit here for 4 or 5 hours with questions coming in, but we got to put an end to it. Thank you for your great work and putting all this energy into our show, Teddy. It means so much to us. Follow Teddy on Twitter. He's a great follow. Teddy_covers. Have a giant Thursday, Teddy, and thank you for all your guidance, my friend.